going to break down proportion in art, and hopefully this simplifies it for you. In art, everything still has its real-life proportions, but they are sized relative to their place from the imaginary camera's perspective. Here's an example of the imaginary camera being placed in a way that makes everything have their real-life proportions. The cat is both shorter and smaller than the table and the human. The table is both wider than the cat and the human, and taller than the cat, but shorter than the human. And the human is thinner than the table and bigger than the cat, but taller than the table. Now we have an example of the camera still being placed in a way that everything has its accurate proportions. The human is smaller and shorter than the light pole and the skyscraper, but thicker than the light pole. The light pole is taller and thinner than the human, and shorter and thinner than the skyscraper or apartment building. And the building is both wider than the light pole and the human, and also taller. The horizon line is where the sky meets the ground. So when there's a lot of sky, that means it is a low horizon line, and when there is only a little bit of sky and more ground, that means there is a high horizon line. And of course, if the amount of sky and ground are equal, then there's just a middle level horizon line. If an object is closer to the camera, put it lower than the horizon line. If it is further away from it, put it higher than the horizon line. And if it's a short or shorter object or person, put it lower than the horizon line and the relative objects around it. If it's tall or taller, put it higher than the horizon line and the relative objects around it. For instance, this tree is still proportionately bigger than this human, or actually they're kind of close to the same size, but because it's placed higher and it's also level with the background, the house in the background, and it's bigger than this human, we're able to see that the house is far away. The house is far away and the tree is big, and the person must be close to the camera. I placed a tall person here now so you can see what it looks like when there is a tall object and it is higher than the horizon line. Creates the illusion. For a small object to appear larger, the imaginary camera needs to be placed very close to it. For instance, like this. The ant, while big in our view, is still smaller than some of the objects and level with objects, so we know it's not the biggest thing here. But the ant is big enough for us to view in detail.